Okay, so I want to show you a technique that you could potentially use on your final project. So the front of the letter, we want it to be lightest. The bottom of the letter, we want to be darkest value, and sides would be medium value. Okay, so for this, to show how to do this, I could start by taking my green here, and I can just do a nice light layer. I'm not pressing very hard. Then next I'm going to take and I'm going to press really hard, not to the point that I break it. Notice my pencil hasn't, the lead hasn't snapped on here. And I'm going to press very, very firmly for anything that I would consider the bottom dimension. Okay, now for the remaining sides, I'm going to color someplace in between those two. So not quite as light as before. And then this side I'm going to call it bottom just because I need some difference between those two sides. Then I'm going to take my paintbrush. Okay, I'm going to start with my lightest color. So for the lightest area right here, I'm just going to take and use the water to blend. So these are watercolor pencils that we're working with. Now, something that's key with this is you want to let an area dry before you paint right next to it, or you want to leave a little bit of a buffer. So what you might end up doing is painting in all of the letters first, let it dry, then come back in and paint all of your depth. So then I get a smaller brush. I'm going to go even smaller for the dimension. So I'm not going to go quite up next to the A. I'm leaving a slight gap there. Can do the same thing on this side. Again, I don't want to get too close, because if I get too close, it'll bleed. So like if I go up here, see how it's starting to bleed in, and if that was real fresh, if the water was still really fresh there, it would go all the way up into the A. Okay, and then once I've wiped that off, then I can come back in and do the medium. Oops. Another thing that you can do as well is you can also layer, like where you want it to be really dark, or if you want it to get really dark as it nears the vanishing point, you can also layer like a black watercolor pencil over it and use that to help create some of those darker values. And then you can even come back in and blend it in with your other colors. And so what that will result in is something like this. So again, lightest for the front, medium for the sides, darkest for the bottom, and it can also get darker as you near the vanishing point. Same thing